Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're going to learn English in a fun and simple way. Whether you're a beginner or just want to practice, this video will help you improve step by step. So grab a notebook, relax, and let's start learning English together.
Perfect timing. I was just finishing up for the day. How was school today?
Hey, it was quite a day. We had a fire drill right in the middle of my AP history class, and then the debate team stayed late to prepare for this weekend's tournament. I'm exhausted, but in a good way. How was your day at the office?
Actually, I worked from home today, which is becoming more common since our company adopted a hybrid schedule. I had 3 video conferences with our development team in different time zones, so I was basically glued to my computer from 9 a.m. until just now.
Working from home sounds nice in theory, but I imagine it comes with its own challenges. Do you miss the office atmosphere?
Sometimes I do. There's something energizing about being around other people and having those spontaneous brainstorming sessions that happen when you bump into colleagues in the hallway. But the flexibility is incredible. No commute time, I can work in comfortable clothes, and I can actually focus without constant interruptions.
I can definitely see the appeal. My job requires me to be physically present, obviously. There's no such thing as remote teaching, at least not the traditional kind. What time do you usually start working when you're at home?
That's one of the perks of my company. We have flexible hours as long as we're available for core collaboration time between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. On home days, I typically start around 8:30 a.m. with emails and individual coding work, then join team meetings later in the morning.
Flexible hours sound amazing. I'm bound by the school bell schedule. First period starts at 7:45 a.m. sharp, whether I'm ready or not. Do you find it hard to maintain work-life boundaries when working from home?
That's definitely been a learning curve. When I first started remote work, I found myself checking emails at 10 p.m. or working on weekends just because my laptop was right there. I've had to create artificial boundaries, like shutting down my computer at a specific time and having a separate workspace.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm lucky that when I leave school, work stays at school, mostly, though I do bring home grading and lesson planning pretty regularly. What's your typical workload like? My workload varies quite a bit, depending on what stage our projects are in. Right now, we're in crunch time for a major product launch, so I'm probably putting in 50 to 55 hours per week instead of the usual 40. Wow, that's intense. What does a typical day look like during crunch time? On office days, I usually arrive around 8:30 a.m. and immediately check our project management system to see if any critical bugs came up overnight. Our users are global, so issues can arise while we're sleeping. Then I spend a morning in focused coding time before the afternoon meetings start. Do you work alone or as part of a team? Mostly collaborative work. I'm part of a 5-person development team, and we practice something called agile methodology. We have daily stand-up meetings at 10 a.m. where everyone shares what they accomplished yesterday, what they're working on today, and any obstacles they're facing. That sounds very structured and efficient. How long do those meetings typically last?
They're supposed to be 15 minutes, but they often run longer when we're troubleshooting complex problems. After the stand-up, I usually have 2 to 3 hours of uninterrupted coding time, which is when I'm most productive.
Uninterrupted time sounds luxurious. My day is broken up by class periods. I teach 5 classes per day, 3 sections of world history and 2 sections of AP US history. Each class is 50 minutes long.
That's a lot of content to cover. Do you teach the same material 5 times, or are all your classes different?
The world history classes cover the same curriculum, but the AP classes are much more advanced and move at a faster pace. Plus, every class has a different personality and dynamic, so even when I'm teaching the same material, I have to adapt my approach.
That sounds like it requires a lot of mental flexibility. What's your favorite part of the teaching day?
I love the moments when you can see a student suddenly understand a concept they've been struggling with. There's this light that goes on in their eyes, and it makes all the challenging parts of the job worthwhile. What about you? What's the most satisfying part of your work?
I get that same feeling when I solve a particularly difficult coding problem or when we successfully deploy a feature that users really love. There's something incredibly satisfying about building something from scratch and seeing it work in the real world.
That must be amazing to see your work have such direct impact. Do you get feedback from users often?
We do. We have user analytics and feedback systems, plus our customer support team shares user comments with the development team. Sometimes users send really thoughtful suggestions or thank you messages, which definitely motivates me during long debugging sessions.
You mentioned afternoon meetings. What are those like?
The meeting culture at our company is intense. After lunch, I typically have back-to-back meetings until 4 or 5 p.m. We have sprint planning meetings, code review sessions, stakeholder check-ins, and one-on-one meetings with my manager.
That sounds like a lot of meetings. Do you find them productive?
Some are essential for coordination and decision-making, but honestly, I sometimes feel like I spend more time talking about the work than actually doing the work. We've been trying to implement meeting-free Fridays to give everyone focused work time.
Meeting-free Fridays sound wonderful. Do teachers have a lot of meetings too?
We do, but they're concentrated differently. We have weekly department meetings, monthly faculty meetings, and parent-teacher conferences twice a year. Plus, I have additional meetings for the debate team I coach. What are parent-teacher conferences like?
They can be really rewarding or quite challenging, depending on the situation. Most parents are supportive and just want to understand how their child is doing. But occasionally you have difficult conversations about academic performance or behavioral issues.
That sounds emotionally demanding. Do you prepare differently for those conversations?
Absolutely. I spend hours before conference week organizing student portfolios, reviewing grades, and preparing specific examples of each student's progress. For difficult conversations, I practice what I'm going to say and always focus on solutions rather than just problems.
That preparation sounds similar to how I prep for client presentations. Speaking of presentations, do you do much public speaking in your job?
Every day, I'm essentially giving presentations to 25 to 30 teenagers 5 times a day. You learn to think on your feet quickly when a student asks an unexpected question or when your planned lesson isn't working.
I have so much respect for that skill. I get nervous presenting to a conference room of adults, and you're doing it constantly with much tougher audiences.
Teenagers can definitely be a tough crowd. They have no problem letting you know when they're bored or confused, but they're also incredibly engaged when you find the right way to connect with them.
What kind of technology do you use in your teaching?
We've really embraced educational technology in the past few years. I use a learning management system called Canvas to post assignments, grades, and resources for students. I also use interactive presentation tools like Kahoot for review games and Padlet for collaborative activities.
That sounds like quite a shift from traditional teaching methods. How do students respond to the technology integration?
Most students love it because they're digital natives, but I've learned that technology should enhance learning, not replace good teaching fundamentals. I still believe in the power of face-to-face discussion and hands-on activities.
That's a thoughtful approach. What about communication with students and parents?
We use email for parent communication, and I have office hours twice a week when students can come for extra help. Some teachers use messaging apps, but I prefer to keep clear boundaries between school hours and personal time.
Boundaries are so important. What tools do you use for grading and feedback?
I use a digital gradebook that syncs with our school's student information system. For essay feedback, I've started using voice comments instead of written ones. Students seem to respond better to hearing my tone and inflection.
Voice comments are such a clever idea. What about you? What's your technology stack like?
Well, I primarily code in JavaScript and Python, and we use Git for version control. Our team collaborates through Slack for quick communication and Jira for project tracking.
For development, I use VS Code as my main editor.
Do you work with databases much?
Yes, quite a bit actually. We use PostgreSQL for our main application database and Redis for caching. I also work with various APIs to integrate different services. The technical stack keeps evolving, which means I'm constantly learning new tools and frameworks.
How do you stay current with all the technological changes in your field?
I spend probably 3 to 4 hours per week reading tech blogs, watching tutorial videos, and experimenting with new tools. Our company also gives us a professional development budget for online courses and conferences.
That's fantastic that your company supports continued learning. Do you attend tech conferences?
I try to attend at least one major conference per year, plus several local meetups. The networking is valuable, but I also love seeing what innovations are coming down the pipeline and learning from other developers' experiences.
How do you handle the stress during those crunch periods you mentioned?
It's definitely challenging. I've learned that I need to be proactive about stress management, regular exercise, getting enough sleep, and taking actual breaks during the workday, even when deadlines are tight.
What does your exercise routine look like?
I go to a gym near my office on the days I work in person, usually for 45 minutes after work. On home days, I have a subscription to an online fitness platform and do 30-minute workouts in my living room.
That's great that you found ways to be consistent regardless of where you're working. What about mental health breaks during the workday?
I try to take a proper lunch break away from my computer, even if it's just sitting outside for 20 minutes. And I've started using the Pomodoro technique, working in focused 25-minute blocks with short breaks in between.
The Pomodoro technique sounds useful for maintaining focus. How do you handle work stress as a teacher?
Actually, I was asking you that question. How do you handle work stress? Teaching can be emotionally and physically exhausting, especially during certain times of the year like testing season or parent conference weeks. I found that having hobbies completely unrelated to work is crucial for my mental health.
What kind of hobbies do you have?
I love hiking and photography. It gets me outdoors and gives my brain a break from thinking about lesson plans and grading. I also do pottery classes on weekends, which is wonderfully meditative and hands-on after spending all week talking.
Pottery sounds incredibly relaxing. Do you find it hard to leave work at work?
Sometimes, especially when I have students who are struggling or dealing with difficult situations at home. Teachers tend to be caregivers by nature, so it's easy to worry about your students even after hours.
That emotional investment must be both rewarding and draining. How do you set boundaries?
I've learned to do most of my grading and planning during school hours or immediately after school, so my evenings and weekends are more protected. I also try to remember that I can't solve all my students' problems. I can only provide support within my role as their teacher.
That's such important wisdom. Do you ever consider leaving teaching for something else?
I think every teacher has moments of doubt, especially during challenging periods. But ultimately, I love working with young people and feel like I'm making a meaningful contribution to society. The job has incredible intrinsic rewards that you can't find in many other professions.
What does career advancement look like in teaching?
It's quite different from the corporate world. I could eventually move into administration, becoming a department head, assistant principal, or principal. Or I could specialize in curriculum development, educational consulting, or instructional coaching.
Are those appealing options to you?
I'm interested in curriculum development because I love creating engaging learning experiences. But I'm not sure about administration. I think I'd miss the daily interaction with students. What about career growth in tech?
There are typically two main paths: technical leadership or people management. I could become a senior developer, then a technical lead or architect, focusing on complex technical problems. Or I could move into management and lead development teams.
Which direction appeals to you more?
Right now, I'm more interested in the technical track. I love the problem-solving aspects of coding and want to become an expert in my field. But I'm also curious about mentoring junior developers, which could eventually lead to management.
Mentoring is so rewarding. I work with several student teachers each year, and helping them develop their skills reminds me why I love teaching. Do you do any mentoring in your current role?
We have a buddy system for new hires, and I was recently paired with a junior developer who just graduated from a coding boot camp. It's been really fulfilling to help her navigate her first professional development role.
That's wonderful. What's the learning curve like for new people in your field?
It can be steep, especially because technology changes so rapidly. Someone might graduate with skills that are already becoming outdated. The key is being adaptable and committed to continuous learning.
That sounds both exciting and intimidating. How do you stay motivated to keep learning new things?
I love the challenge of solving new types of problems, and I'm genuinely curious about how things work. Plus, in tech, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. So continuous learning isn't really optional.
That growth mindset is so important in any field. Do you have any long-term career goals?
I'd love to work on products that have social impact, maybe educational technology, healthcare applications, or environmental solutions. Using my technical skills for something that makes the world better would be incredibly fulfilling.
What's the culture like at your company?
It's pretty collaborative and informal. We have an open office layout, casual dress code, and lots of opportunities for social interaction. There are game rooms, free snacks, and regular team building events.
That sounds fun. Do you enjoy the social aspects of work?
Most of the time, yes. It's great to work with people who are passionate about technology and innovation. But sometimes the work hard, play hard culture can feel overwhelming, especially for people who prefer quieter work environments.
I can see how that might be intense. What about diversity and inclusion in your workplace?
It's an ongoing effort. Tech has historically had diversity challenges, and our company is actively working to improve. We have employee resource groups, unconscious bias training, and inclusive hiring practices. But there's still work to be done.
It's good that your company is being proactive about it. What's the culture like in your school?
Actually, I'd love to hear about your school culture.
Teaching tends to attract people who are mission-driven, so there's usually a strong sense of shared purpose. But schools can also be hierarchical and resistant to change, which can be frustrating for innovative teachers.
How do you handle the bureaucracy?
I try to focus on what I can control: my classroom, my relationships with students, and my own professional development. I get involved in committees where I can have input on school policies, but I don't let the bureaucratic aspects overshadow the core work of teaching.
That sounds like a healthy approach. Do teachers collaborate much with each other?
Absolutely. I work closely with other history teachers to align our curricula, and I collaborate with English teachers for cross-curricular projects. The debate team also requires coordination with other coaches and tournament directors.
Cross-curricular projects sound really engaging for students. What's an example of something you've done?
Last semester, the English and history teachers collaborated on a unit about World War II. Students read literature from that time period in English class while learning about the historical context in my class, then created multimedia presentations combining both perspectives.
That's such a creative way to help students make connections. Do you have autonomy in your curriculum design?
I have quite a bit of freedom within the state standards requirements. I can choose my teaching methods, select supplementary materials, and design assessments that work for my students. The AP classes have less flexibility because of the standardized exam requirements.
What are the biggest challenges you face in your job day to day?
Time management is probably the biggest one. There's never enough time to do everything you want to do. Grade papers thoughtfully, create engaging lessons, provide individual attention to students who need it, and handle all the administrative tasks.
How do you prioritize when everything feels important?
I've learned to focus on what has the most direct impact on student learning. High-quality instruction comes first, then meaningful feedback on student work, then everything else. I also batch similar tasks together, like grading all essays at once rather than switching between different types of work.
Batching similar tasks is such a smart strategy. What other challenges do you face?
Managing classroom behavior and keeping all students engaged can be really challenging, especially with large class sizes. I teach classes of 28 to 32 students, and they all have different learning styles, interests, and attention spans.
That sounds incredibly complex. How do you handle such diverse needs?
I try to vary my teaching methods, some visual learners, some auditory, some kinesthetic. I use small group work, individual assignments, class discussions, and hands-on activities. It's not perfect, but most students find something that works for them.
You're essentially personalizing education for 150 plus students. That's remarkable. What are your biggest work challenges?
Well, I'm curious about your biggest work challenges. Debugging complex problems can be incredibly frustrating, especially when you're under tight deadlines. Sometimes I'll spend hours tracking down a bug that turns out to be caused by a single misplaced character or subtle logic error.
That sounds maddening. How do you approach problem solving when you're stuck?
I've learned to step away from the computer when I hit a wall. Often, the solution comes to me when I'm walking, showering, or doing something completely unrelated. I also rely heavily on my teammates. Sometimes a fresh pair of eyes can spot something I've been missing.
Taking breaks for perspective is so important. Do you use any specific problem-solving methodologies?
We practice something called rubber duck debugging, literally explaining your code line by line to a rubber duck or a colleague. The process of verbalizing what you think should be happening often reveals the disconnect.
That's such an interesting technique. I use something similar when students are struggling. I ask them to explain their thinking process out loud, which often helps them identify where they got confused.
It's amazing how universal that principle is. What do you do when you're dealing with particularly challenging students?
I try to understand what's behind the behavior. Often students who are disruptive or disengaged are dealing with issues outside of school, or they're struggling academically and don't know how to ask for help. Building relationships is usually more effective than punishment.
How do you stay current in changes in your field?
The tech industry moves incredibly fast, so continuous learning is essential. I probably spend 5 to 7 hours per week on professional development, reading industry blogs, taking online courses, experimenting with new tools, and attending webinars.
That's a significant time investment. Does your company support that learning?
Yes, they're great about it. We get an annual professional development budget, time allocated during work hours for learning, and the company pays for conference attendance. They understand that investing in employee growth benefits everyone.
That's fantastic. What about you? How do you stay current as a teacher?
Actually, I'm curious about your professional development. Teachers are required to complete continuing education credits to maintain our licenses. I attend workshops on new teaching strategies, educational technology, and subject-specific updates. I also read educational journals and participate in online teacher communities.
Online teacher communities sound valuable. What are those like?
They're incredibly supportive. Teachers share lesson plans, classroom management strategies, and resources. When you're dealing with a challenging situation, you can get advice from educators who've been through similar experiences.
That peer support sounds wonderful. Do you attend education conferences?
I try to attend at least one major conference per year, usually focused on history education or educational technology. The sessions are helpful, but networking with other teachers is often the most valuable part.
The networking aspect is huge in tech conferences too. Have you considered pursuing advanced degrees?
I've thought about it. Many teachers get master's degrees in education or their subject area, which also comes with salary increases. I'm particularly interested in programs that focus on curriculum design or educational leadership.
Would you study while continuing to teach full-time?
Most likely, yes. Most programs are designed for working teachers with evening or summer classes. It would be challenging, but it's common in our profession.
That level of commitment is impressive. Do you encourage your students to pursue continuous learning too?
Absolutely. I try to model curiosity and growth mindset in my classroom. I'll share when I'm learning something new, and I emphasize that intelligence isn't fixed. We can all get smarter through effort and practice.
That's such an important message for young people to hear. Do you see differences in how students approach learning?
Definitely. Some students are comfortable making mistakes and learning from them, while others are afraid to take intellectual risks. I try to create a classroom culture where mistakes are seen as learning opportunities rather than failures.
What gives you the most satisfaction in your work?
Seeing former students succeed in college and beyond is incredibly rewarding. I get messages from students who tell me that something we learned in class influenced their choice of major or helped them in a college course. Knowing I played a small part in their intellectual development is amazing. That long-term impact must be so meaningful. Do you stay in touch with many former students? Some of them, especially those who were involved in debate team, social media makes it easier to see how they're doing, and occasionally they'll stop by the school to visit. It's wonderful to see them grow into thoughtful adults.
That connection across time is something unique about teaching. What impact do you hope to have through your work?
I'd love to hear about what makes your work meaningful.
Building products that solve real problems for real people is incredibly satisfying. When I see users engaging with features I've helped create, or when I fix a bug that was frustrating people, it feels like I'm making a tangible difference in their daily lives. That immediate feedback loop must be motivating. Do you get to interact with users directly? Not usually in my day-to-day work, but occasionally I'll participate in user research sessions or read detailed feedback reports. Our UX team does most of the direct user interaction, but they share insights with the development team.
How do you measure success in your projects?
We track various metrics: user engagement, performance benchmarks, error rates, and feature adoption. But ultimately, success means creating something that users find valuable and that achieves the business objectives.
Those concrete metrics must make it easier to evaluate your work compared to education, where impact can be harder to measure immediately.
That's true, though I imagine the long-term impact of teaching is much more profound than anything I'll build. You're literally shaping the next generation of thinkers and leaders.
Both of our fields contribute to society in important ways. Technology innovations can solve global problems, while education ensures we have people capable of understanding and addressing those challenges.
That's a beautiful way to think about it. We're working on different pieces of the same larger puzzle.
Where do you see your industry heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Artificial intelligence is going to transform software development significantly. AI tools are already helping with code generation and debugging, and I think they'll become even more sophisticated. But I don't think they'll replace developers. Instead, they'll help us focus on more creative and strategic work.
That's fascinating. How are you preparing for those changes?
I'm learning about machine learning and AI development, and I'm focusing on skills that are harder to automate, like system design, user experience thinking, and complex problem solving. The key is staying adaptable.
Adaptability seems crucial in any field these days. What about the future of education?
I'm curious about your perspective on that.
Education is also being transformed by technology, but the core relationship between teacher and student remains essential. I think we'll see more personalized learning through technology,
but human teachers will still be needed for mentorship, emotional support, and complex thinking skills.
Do you think AI will impact teaching?
It already is. AI can help with administrative tasks like grading multiple choice tests and providing initial feedback on writing, but developing critical thinking, creativity, and social emotional skills requires human interaction and guidance.
That makes sense. What changes are you seeing in how students learn and engage?
Students today are incredibly tech savvy, but they also crave authentic human connection. They want their learning to be relevant and meaningful, not just academic exercises. They're also more socially conscious and want to understand how their education connects to real-world issues.
That sounds like a positive evolution. How do you adapt your teaching to meet those expectations?
I tried to connect historical events to current issues, use technology to enhance rather than replace human interaction, and provide opportunities for students to apply their learning to meaningful projects. It keeps me on my toes, but it makes teaching more engaging too.
It sounds like both of our fields require constant evolution in learning. Are there any aspects of traditional work that you hope don't change?
I hope we maintain the collaborative aspects of education, teachers working together, students learning from each other, and the school community supporting everyone's growth. Technology should enhance those relationships, not replace them.
I feel similarly about teamwork in tech. While remote work has many benefits, I hope we don't lose the creative energy that comes from people collaborating in person and building on each other's ideas spontaneously.
What advice would you give to someone considering a career in technology?
Start building things as soon as possible, even if they're simple projects. The field values practical skills and problem-solving ability more than just theoretical knowledge. Also, develop strong communication skills. You'll need to explain technical concepts to non-technical people regularly.
Communication skills are so important in any field. What else would you recommend?
Find a mentor or join communities of other developers. The tech world can feel overwhelming, but there are so many people willing to help newcomers learn and grow. And don't be afraid to apply for jobs, even if you don't meet every single requirement listed.
That last point is especially important for women in underrepresented groups in tech, right?
Absolutely. Imposter syndrome is real, and marginalized groups often feel it more acutely. But skills can be learned on the job, and diverse perspectives make teams stronger and more innovative.
What advice would you give to someone considering teaching?
Actually, I'd love to hear your advice for aspiring teachers.
Make sure you genuinely enjoy working with young people and can handle the emotional demands of the job. Teaching isn't just about subject matter expertise. You're also a counselor, motivator, and role model. It's incredibly rewarding, but also emotionally intensive.
What other qualities make someone successful in teaching?
Patience, flexibility, and a growth mindset are essential. You have to be comfortable with not having control of everything and be willing to adapt when something isn't working. You also need strong organizational skills to manage all the different responsibilities.
How important is subject matter expertise versus teaching skills?
Both are crucial, but I'd say teaching skills are slightly more important. You can always learn more about your subject area, but if you can't connect with students or explain concepts clearly, the content knowledge won't matter much. That's such valuable insight.
What do you wish more people understood about teaching?
That it's an intellectually demanding profession that requires constant decision-making, creativity, and problem-solving. Sometimes people think it's easy because you get summers off, but good teachers are always thinking about how to improve their practice and better serve their students.
The complexity of your job is definitely underappreciated. Looking back on your career so far, what are you most proud of?
I'm proud of the relationships I've built with students and the small ways I've helped them grow as thinkers and people. I'm also proud of some innovative curriculum projects I've developed that have been adopted by other teachers in my district.
Those sound like meaningful accomplishments. What about you? What are you most proud of in your career?
I'm curious what you're most proud of.
I'm proud of a project I led that improved the accessibility of our application for users with disabilities. It wasn't glamorous work, but it made our product usable for thousands of people who had been excluded before. I'm also proud of mentoring junior developers and seeing them grow into confident, skilled professionals.
Those are wonderful contributions, both to your users and to the next generation of developers. It's clear that both of our careers allow us to make a positive impact, just in different ways.
Exactly. Whether we're writing code or teaching students, we're both working to solve problems and help people grow. That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is. Thanks for such an insightful conversation, Maya. It's been wonderful learning about your work and reflecting on our different but parallel experiences.
Thank you, too. This has given me a new appreciation for the complexity and importance of teaching. Here's to meaningful work and continued growth in both our careers.
Cheers to that!